Hello, this is Richard, and this is my week 3 personal reflection journal. And for this week's journal, I wanted to talk about a topic that was brought up in last Friday's class, uh, more around the idea of national identity. Um, this is a very interesting conversation, or a very interesting and sensitive topic. When Raymond, Brian, and Jessica um, mentioned how I think they all are Chinese heritage, have Chinese heritage, and then but born and raised in Canada, but yet they don't feel a sense of belongingness to either the Chinese nor the Canadian culture. Versus Tim, the professor, who has a very strong sense of national identity. It made me think about the it made me think about it makes me look at diversity from a very different um, perspective as an immigrant. Despite the fact that Canada is an immigrant country, um, I think we're still in a. This is first of all, this is completely my personal opinion, so it does not reflect anyone else's opinion in class. So this is purely based on my experience as an immigrant who has spent half of my life living in China and half of my life living in Canada. And I feel that despite the fact that Canada is an immigrant country, Vancouver is fairly diverse. I think the whole idea of Canadianism has a has a very Western, Caucasian, European undertone to it. The reason I'm saying that is because, first of all, Raymond and Brian said, growing up, they don't feel like, they don't look like a typical Canadian, and I think what they meant by that is they're not ethnically speaking, they're not Caucasian or of European background, and because of that, there I almost feel like there's a sense of less than Canadian there. Um, I think it's rooted in the way this country was founded. I think, and I think when you talk about the Aboriginal people, or you're talking to the First Nation people, I think the idea of being Canadian is also something that quite sensitive to their culture because essentially it's about Canada was essentially colonized by the Europeans, so there is a sense of colonization there, and the colonization is about it's about European culture dominating um, cultures of other countries back then. Obviously, but we're not necessarily talking about colonization now. But anyway, so it just made me feel a little bit sad that in this day and age, and given how diverse it is, we still feel, certain group of people like Raymond or Brian or Jessica, they were all born here. They were born Canadian. They still feel a sense of not belonging, or they can resonate with the Canadian culture. Um, yeah, it just it's yeah it's. I mean, for me, I feel very. I don't feel a strong sense of being Canadian, or I don't feel a sense of being fully Chinese either. I think my nationality, my attachment to my nationality isn't very strong, and I think the way I resonate with who I am is not. It doesn't necessarily translate into my citizenship or which country I'm from. So in that department, I'm quite fluid, but I've experienced a lot of immigrants when they come to Canada after many years living here, they still don't feel a sense of belongingness. And some people saying, some people will say, well, because those people don't try hard to trying to integrate into the society. But having said that, I don't think that's the issue that they're not trying to integrate into the society. I just think the idea of, even for me, when I think about, like, when someone says he's Canadian or she's Canadian, without seeing the person, I just automatically assume the person is of a European background. So, yeah, I think it's this whole national identity debate or conversation is something I think it's worth talking more in the future. So yeah, it's not really about sustainability, obviously, this personal reflection journal, but just some thoughts that I have. I wonder how, as a society, what can we do to kind of de-Europeanize the idea of Canadianism, and so that everybody from every single culture can feel a strong national identity. Because for me, I don't really, like, when I think about Americans, I think there's a very strong national identity to them. Like, I think how they act, well, and the way they behave. And when I think about Chinese, they're, the certain way they behave, and same goes for um, um, same goes for Canada too. We're thinking about, like, people being very very friendly, very polite, but yeah, I think on the surface level we're a very inclusive society, but I think there are still a lot of issues um, that are deeply rooted in the way this country is funded, and also it's doing, it's making some people feel less welcome in our country, if that makes sense. Anyways, those are just my thoughts. Anyways, next time, bye bye.